The best part about video games is they're interactive, and so is the PRESSURECAST. If you have a question, comment, complaint, or correction you'd like to hear read on an episode of the PRESSURECAST, email us, pressurecast@gmail.com. That's pressurecast@gmail.com. As always, please rate and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. It's always appreciated. And now, on to this week's episode of the PRESSURECAST. This week on the PRESSURECAST, Nintendo releases sales figures, Bill Gates weighs in on HoloLens, and Sega slashes its workforce. Plus, impressions of Dying Light, Hyperdimension, Neptunia, Rebirth 2, Sisters Generation, Grim Fandango, and Metroid Prime Trilogy. Everything happening in the world of video games is here, now, on the PRESSURECAST. What's up, Pressure Pal? Thanks for joining me today on the 63rd episode of the PRESSURECAST, the weekly video game news podcast that posts every single Monday. What a show we have for you today. There's so much news to get to, a ton of games to talk about, but first, let's address the elephant in the room. It's another Solo Brello podcast, but it's nobody's fault this time except for Mother Nature. You see, the PRESSURECAST is recorded in the great state of Wisconsin. Not my favorite state. I wouldn't really call it great per se, but it does get a lot of snow. Now, originally, a good friend of mine, Brandon, was going to be on the show today, and he still is. He'll be on next week. We were supposed to record today, but unfortunately... Snow. Yeah, snow. You heard all about the snow in New York, and oh my god, look at it. They're shutting down New York City. Let me tell you something. If they got the type of blizzard that we got today, New York would be shut down for a month. I mean, right now I'm looking outside. Literally, I'm looking outside. By the way, I'm not even in the studio. I'm recording at home. I can't get out. No one can get out because they won't plow the streets. Even they're calling up people on their phones, the city is, and saying, don't go outside. No one go anywhere. Thanks a lot. Yeah, my tax dollars at work. No one's plowing the streets. So yes, it's another solo podcast, but don't worry. We have a new guest next week. Brendan, you're going to love him. He's awesome. Knows a lot about video games, which is what this show is all about. So let's stop talking about the weather. How boring is that? Let's move over to the games of the week. Now, normally we do news first, but I figured there were so many important games that came out this week. It's really the very first push of 2015. I think that's a little more important. So this week, Dying Light came out, which, by the way, you can go to YouTube and check out the first hour of Dying Light on youtube.com/gamesunderpressure. Yes, I'm still trying to change the name of the URL for the YouTube page. Unfortunately, that's gonna be a bit. I'm waiting to get 500 subscribers before I can do that. But Dying Light, let me tell you, this is from Techland, published by Warner Brothers. It is essentially a spiritual sequel to the other Techland game, Dead Island. It's a first-person zombie survival parkour game, and the parkour is really what's new about this title. In Dying Light, you're able to run, jump, and climb throughout this city. It takes place in a fictional city in a fictional Arabic land that has been overrun by zombies. And you play as this secret government person who's in there to collect a formula, and there's some doctor. I don't have a clue what's going on in the plot. It's junk, so let's not focus on that. But you basically will run around in this city, and there's tons of ramps and tons of buildings, and you'll just look towards a ledge, and you'll jump, and the character's arms will automatically climb up the building. You have to use the R1 button. And so if you hold down on the R1 button, you can also just connect onto climbable objects. So there'll be like these bars that are on the windows of certain buildings, and you can just pull yourself up and actually jump from ledges and actually climb up more buildings. And that's really cool. It's kind of like Assassin's Creed in a way, except less, wall running and stuff like that. What's really fascinating about this is that you do get a really good sense of momentum. As long as you're constantly jumping and running, your character doesn't really slow down. Now, if you just like sprint, he does get a bit winded after a while. Now, there's no stamina bar per se for him to run, but after a while, the screen will get a little fuzzy. You can hear the panting of the breath. Nothing unusual. But for every jump and run that you do, you actually gain points that help you upgrade your parkour level, which is really cool. So you can run a little bit faster without, losing your breath. You can climb a little bit faster. It's a really smart system, and it's really engaging just to run and climb throughout a series of stages. But all in all, I have to give the game a bit of, crap, because as much fun as it is to run and jump, it does feel a bit stiff, sort of. Like you'll be trying to aim at a particular ledge and your character will miss. Sometimes you can see an area that you think you can jump up to, and you should be able to jump up to because you already have with other buildings, but it just doesn't work. It's really confusing, and the fall damage is a bit of a bother, even though you can upgrade eventually to reduce your fall damage. But as much fun as that is, the problem with the game is really the combat. The basic element of it is very similar to Dead Island, where you can, hit a zombie in the knee or hit it in the head with different items that you can upgrade so you can make them bleed more, or maybe you can electrocute them. I want to talk about that a little bit later. But the problem is it's incredibly stiff, and it doesn't have that cool mechanic that they had in the original Dead Island, where you can actually use the right analog stick to aim your weapon. So in Dead Island, you would hold R2, and then you would take the right analog stick, pull it left, so the arm would go left, and then fling it right so that you would hit them. So there was like a sense of momentum of the direction that you wanted to hit them. In this game, they actually use a lot of auto aim, which is not so good, and the combat's just boring. Like, the zombies are actually pretty smart. They will sneak up behind you rather quickly. They will run at you occasionally. There's different types of zombies. There's fast zombies. There's ones that spew out goo, I don't know, that poisons you. And then there's also the zombies that are like gigantic, and they have a big hammer, which you can kill them after a few hits and take their big hammer, although you can't repair that particular weapon. And then there's these night hunters, I want to say. That's a multiplayer mode. I want to get to that in just a bit. But the general combat just feels stiff and slow and not very rewarding. And I think I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, but I feel as if they made a mod for this game where instead of having zombies, and instead of having the blood, instead of having the I'm a zombie sounds, if they replaced that with, let's say, malfunctioning robots that were just slowly walking towards you, and you'd hit them and sparks would fly out, I think it would just expose how dull and simplistic the combat actually is. Now, you can upgrade to some kind of cool attacks. You can do like a ground pound and knock them back. You can do a running jump kick, which is pretty cool. Or you can actually like slide on the ground and break their kneecaps. All this is interesting, but it doesn't help that the actual moment-to-moment hitting a zombie with an axe or a stick or a pipe, no matter how much you level it up, or a police baton, after just a few minutes, it's boring. I mean, I remember the very first night that I played this game, I actually went online with some people, because you can actually join up to 3 other people and just hang out and run around the world. Although that is kind of bothersome when you're trying to actually get missions done, and the mission won't start until everybody's there, and you're just staring at this NPC that's like, please go get me medicine. And it's like, I would love to, guys. Can you come over here? But all we did is run around and kill zombies. And I thought, okay, there's more of us. This will make it more exciting. So maybe one of them will kick the zombie towards me, and I'll hit him in the face. And that actually did happen. And the first time it was really cool. And then the next time it was like, yeah, this is boring. I'm not having a whole lot of fun here. Well, maybe the parkour will make it more exciting. Oh, you already jumped on that ledge, and so I couldn't climb on that ledge because your dumb body was in the way, and so I fell down. Yeah. Well, okay, so what exactly are the good qualities of Dying Light? The parkour is excellent. I would say the voice acting is actually very well done, even though, and there are some parts where the dialogue is really good. Let me talk about that real quick. There's this random NPCs you can just walk up to, and they'll just tell you a story. And they'll talk for maybe about 2 minutes. And one of them was just this I don't know, like some sort of police officer. He was wearing all of his gear, and he was talking about like how they showed up when the zombie outbreak happened, and his entire squad got killed. And so every once in a while, he'll just see one of his random teammates still wandering the streets trying to eat people, but they're wearing masks, so they can't even bite anyone. And he just, you know, it was just a really interesting speech, and that was really cool. But all the rest of the dialogue of the game is really bad. I mean, there's like small moments where, you know, there's this guy named Roz. He's like this evil, I guess, would-be warlord who's kind of trapped on this island, and he's like the bad colony of humans, whereas you're working for the good colony of humans, but you're really working for the government who wants to kill everybody. And so your character's having this conflict of interest. But the bad guy's like, you know, any man that doesn't follow his own rules isn't a man. So he's got, you know, a very interesting philosophy. They actually discuss like the Machiavellian approach to, being a leader. All that stuff is really interesting, but it just doesn't play out in any meaningful way. The basics are always going to be run to point A for me and collect this thing. And when I get the thing, I will not give you the thing you need. And then you'll have to come back to me and do another thing. Ha ha ha. Oh, I am trapped in between this world. Who do I really work for? Do I follow my heart or do I work for the government? That's just not so good. But like those small moments of dialogue are interesting. The parkour is very good, but it still feels like it has too much left over from the original Dead Island, which was a very interesting but flawed game. And that's just how I feel about Dying Light. It's very interesting. Oh, this parkour is really cool, but it's like chewing gum. It loses its flavor so fast. And as for the multiplayer, there's a mode where you can have a night hunter. Imagine just Left 4 Dead, okay? Just imagine Left 4 Dead. And this night hunter, he basically goes around and you stalk people and you can pounce on them. And, you know, the way that the humans fight back is they use a UV light, which will stop the night hunter from being able to pounce on you. And you're trying to destroy the night hunter's nests, and he's trying to stop you from doing that. And you have a set number of lives. I don't know. It's just weird because it's all part of like this 24-hour time system. So these missions only occur at night. I don't know. None of it feels good. None of it fits together. All these parts are interesting on their own, but when you try and put them together, it's just a mess. It's like, I like the parkour, but then I have this horrible combat. I like some of this dialogue, but the story's trash. You know, I like the idea of this multiplayer system, but it's based around this 24-hour clock. Ugh. Yeah, by the way, during night, you get more experience because it's more difficult outside. Is it a bad game? I don't think so. Is it a great game? Definitely not. I would wait a little bit on this one. It's just not quite there yet. Hopefully Techland and Warner Brothers relationship will continue because I feel that this game is, I can't even say it's better than Dead Island. And that's really problematic for me. I think it's a little bit more streamlined in terms of its quests and everything, but oh, and its mini-map, not such a good mini-map. It's too flat, and it tries to commute verticality, and it doesn't do a great job of that. It just has an arrow up or arrow down. I don't know. Dying Light. You can hear my enthusiasm for Dying Light. Hooray. What did you guys think about Dying Light? Why don't you leave a comment below if this is on YouTube, or email me, pressurecast@gmail.com, and you know, I'll respond to it next week. We'll have a further discussion on this game, because I'm sure many of you are getting it, because wherever I went, I saw so many copies being bought. I was so surprised. I can't believe how popular this game is. I don't know if it's because so many people have their Xbox Ones and their PlayStation 4s, and they just don't have any new games on there. They don't have any new franchises. This is like a real new game. It's not a re-release, and they're very excited for that. Or if it's just everybody loves zombies now, so I want to play the new zombie game. But either way, it's a bit perplexing to me that this game is doing as well as it is. But I guess we'll have to wait for the NPD numbers to come out in a couple of weeks to see how well it did in its first week, because it was released this week. It's the end of January, beginning of February. Let's see how Dying Light does. Let's move on over to Grim Fandango. Now, this, of course, was the adventure game that was released on PC. I want to say 97, 98. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember exactly when that happened. But Grim Fandango, You play as Manny. He is basically a travel agent in the afterlife. When you die, you go to the afterlife, and then a bunch of travel agents try and set you up with a package to help you walk into the further afterlife. It's a complicated story, but like the promised land, it takes 4 years to get there, unless you're really rich, and then you can just get on this train, and it'll take you immediately there. This, of course, was made by Tim Schafer way back in the day, at the tail end of adventure games, right when they were pretty much over at that point. It has a really awesome aesthetic. It's all about Day of the Dead. So everybody's a skeleton, and it has a very cool Mexican influence, as well as a noir influence. Great music and great character designs, excellent voice acting, wonderful writing, just wonderful, awesome Tim Schafer dialogue. It just doesn't get any better than that. And I'm sure if you've looked it up online, it's just aesthetically pleasing on a supreme level. It's gorgeous, even after all these years. The HD re-release has some enhanced models, not backgrounds, but models, so they have a little bit more lighting effects, such as shadows. And even with that off, the game still looks great. It does run at 480p, a standard square. Although you could upgrade it to 16 by 9, but of course that just makes all the characters look a lot more wide. Either way, it looks fantastic. Some people say that this might be the best point-and-click adventure game ever, which I disagree with, because it's not a point-and-click adventure. It never was. It never was. You always used the arrow keys on the PC to walk around, and that's, it kind of controls like Resident Evil. They did have an advanced control scheme that makes it a bit easier, because these are static backgrounds, so you're walking from screen to screen, and so like occasionally it'll shift, and you have to kind of readjust a little bit. So like you're walking in one direction, the camera switches to like northeastern, and then it's southwest, and so you're like, whoa, this is really jarring. But it is an adventure game. You do have dialogue trees, and you do have to collect particular items and mess with gadgets to make events occur. Okay. Let's be real here. This is not a fun game. The adventure games of the past were awesome because we were younger, and at that time games didn't really have a huge focus on story. It's kind of like old RPGs. There are some older RPGs that, people have loved, but when you go back to them, you kind of realize, it's not really fun to play this game, because I would say a perfect example is the very first Earthbound game. Not Earthbound, but Mother 1. Going back to playing that, it's like, oh my god, this combat is dull, but the story is so good. That's exactly how I feel about Grim Fandango. The puzzles are so obscure that I don't think I could recommend anyone playing the game like that. However, I could recommend many people should play this game with a walkthrough, because the writing is so excellent that you want to experience all the wonderful events and story beats and dialogue. It's a joy to witness. But the actual discovery of the puzzles, no. It's too time consuming. I mean, it does remove the element of, pixel hunting. When you're playing an adventure game, you just click, 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 click. Where exactly do I go? Click, click, click. Nothing like that. But running back and forth through various environments, through various loading screens, even though they're not loading screens, but there's a little bit of, time if you're trying to get from one end of a stage to another. I'd say no. Get a walkthrough, pick up this game, love it. You will love it. I promise you. You don't want to play this game without a walkthrough. I mean, you could, but do you really want to spend like a month playing Grim Fandango? Being stuck in the same environments, being unsure of where the hell you're supposed to go? Or do you want to experience a wonderful story? Ask yourself that. If the answer is yes, then walk through. Anyway, moving on. I feel so bad about that. I really do. Grim Fandango is such a cool game. Speaking of re-releases, Nintendo has released yet another Wii title on the Wii U. This time, it is Metroid Prime Trilogy. Now, Metroid Prime Trilogy was released in, I want to say, 2009. It was discontinued from production after only 5 months, and so it became incredibly rare. If you go on eBay, it's going to cost you a pretty penny, or it did, a pretty penny, whatever I just said. And so Nintendo has re-released this as a downloadable game for only $10 for the first week. So hurry up and pick that up before Thursday happens, and because it'll go back up to $20. You get Metroid Prime 1 and 2, which were on the GameCube, and Metroid Prime 3, which was on the Wii. The difference is, from those original releases, is that it uses the Wiimote and Nunchuck, allowing you to aim and shoot, which actually works rather well with Metroid Prime 3. Now, that's it. Metroid Prime 1 and 2. Those games were not designed for those controls. They simply were not. To the point where I found myself confused as to how to scan an object. Now, throughout the game, you have to scan objects for information to access areas. It's actually really cool. You learn so much about the Metroid world without having any sort of like person or comm link. You know, no one's over your headset being like, "Hey, Samus, look at that. Let me tell you what it's all about." You know, like BioShock or something. No, this game just has you scan objects, so it keeps that element of isolation while also having a great amount of exposition. The problem is the Wiimote is so bad. It doesn't work at all for Metroid Prime 1 or 2. Now, some people disagree with me. I put those comments out there and people said, "What the hell are you talking about? This is the best way to play these games." No, it's not. It feels old and dated. It feels like I'm playing a game from 2006, whereas if I play Metroid Prime on the GameCube with the GameCube controller, it's like, wow, this game really holds up. Really holds up. But playing it on the Wii, I don't care for it. Now, here's how you scan objects. This is what's great about it. You have to hold down the minus button, and then this triangle appears. And it's like, the description is just infuriating. It's like, release the minus button at the top. It's like, the top? And you're also looking at these objects that are just like flashing in front of you. Like, am I supposed to scan this? And when you finally figure out that you actually have to take the cursor and move it into the top part of the triangle and then let go, you've probably pressed the A button to scan, right? Because it's the A button. And guess what? It immediately starts shooting a gun. You're like, what happened? That's because if you press A, it disables scan mode. You actually have to hold the minus button, fling up on the triangle, and then press the Z button on the nunchuck. It's so convoluted. It's insane that they even allowed that to happen. Oh my god. Now, it works great in Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime 3, it just makes sense. But with Metroid Prime 1 and 2, it's just not good. But the graphics do look pretty good still, and I believe it runs at 60 frames a second. You can watch my video. It's on YouTube right now. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say. If you've never played a Metroid Prime game, they're the first-person games that are allow you to explore a series of environments, unlocking power-ups to unlock more environments. So many games borrow from these elements now that it's, you know, I mean, if you played Batman, you know, the Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, that's basically where they took the idea from, was from Metroid and, you know, eventually Castlevania. So all in all, Metroid Prime Trilogy, $10. Nah. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. $10. Why not? But, you know, fair warning, the controls are not great. Now, the last game I want to talk about before we get to the news is Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 2 Sisters Generation. I was not looking forward to this. It's a PlayStation Vita game. Wasn't very happy about it. Went, all right, great. Here we go. Another anime game. I'll make a video on it and get a bunch of comments saying I'm an asshole. That's always what happens. I play an hour of these anime games and I go, I don't care for it. And then everybody just yells at me and they get a bunch of views anyway. A bunch of people watch it. I don't know. It's a pretty big subculture. Well, so I take this game home and I put it on the PlayStation TV because it is a Vita game. And I'm playing it and I can't tell what the hell is going on. Right away, the storyline is so obscure and it's talking about this land that has been destroyed, and it's, you know, it's already way above my head, and there's anime girls and with a bunch of cleavage, and they're yelling at another anime girl with a bunch of cleavage, and lasers are shooting. I couldn't tell you what. But as I got further into the game, the name of the land is game industry. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then suddenly I noticed that this one girl, she has like this hairpiece that kind of looks like Pac-Man. And while I can't tell you what the game is about, it's apparently just a giant metaphor. Or not a metaphor. I can't even think of the term that I'm looking for right now. But it's just talking about the current state of video games in Japan. There's a whole meta story in there. It's kind of incredible. But actually the gameplay itself is quite good. It is almost identical to whatever that game was called, Fairy Fencer F, that's coming to PC pretty soon. Long story short, you walk throughout a series of environments, kind of like Chrono Cross. You can already see the random battles. This is like a JRPG, by the way, if I haven't spelled that out. And you just attack an enemy in advance, and that will lead you into like a combat situation. You'll be within a circle, and you can wander around and attack individual enemies for your turn. And then they'll attack you, and then your circle will widen depending on where you're standing, and you control up to 3 characters at a time. Okay, pretty basic. What's cool about it is that the attacks that you deliver are either speed attacks or power attacks or guard breaker attacks. So when you're fighting a monster, you can do something like break their guard and then use power attacks, and then when you know that they're about to regain their guard, maybe do a speed attack. So there is a really cool amount of strategy in this game, and the quests are pretty pretty simple. It's just kind of like go there and kill this many things and then come back. And yeah, I don't know. Despite all the bullshit anime, girls screaming and cleavage, there was some like way too sexualized torture early on in the game. But beyond that, I don't know. I like the writing. I think the voice acting is pretty good. I like the entire game industry concept. And it seems like some of these characters are representing game companies. I mean, one of the girls is named If. And the company that made this is Idea Factory. Or is it Ideas Factory? Either way, I actually recommend it. If you're into JRPGs, I would say Hyperdimension, Neptunia, Rebirth 2, Sisters Generation, which I believe it is a re-release of a PlayStation 3 game that came out last year. I love it. I think it's really cool, and I've actually popped into my Vita, and I'm playing it there, and the graphics are very nice. I mean, it's pretty flat. It's JRPG. You know what you're getting into. JRPGs aren't the powerhouses of graphics as they were back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but yeah. Hyperdimension, Neptunia, Rebirth 2, Sisters Generation. One of the worst names. If I can get into it, I'm sure many other people that are on the fence could get into it too. So I recommend it. Well, guys, that's going to do it for the games of the week right now. But I'm going to try a little experiment right now. I have, I don't know, Frankensteined my phone into a computer. No joke. And I'm on the line right now. I have Steve Cuff. Hey, Steve.
Hey, what's going on, man?
This is so crazy.
This is pretty wild.
There's a terrible blizzard going on outside. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I'm actually really surprised you're able to get down to the studio today.
I'm not,
it's awful.
Oh, I'm not in the studio. I'm at home.
Oh, well, shit. There you go.
That's
leave your home.
Yeah. So
get drunk.
Well, I wish, man. No, even the liquor store decided to close. Thanks a lot.
Jesus.
I know. He can't even save me. So, Steve, I don't know. I just figured I wanted to experiment here with this phone call thing. Have you had any opportunity to play any games this week?
No. I've been playing Cavern Kings on Steam. That's it. That's all I've been doing. It's kind of a procedurally generated sort of roguelike-ish game. It's kind of like Super Crate Box meets Risk of Rain, and it's got a really cool art style and really nice music and super addictive.
Early access, probably, right?
Yeah, early access. It's got a few bugs here and there, but it's a pretty complete game. I'd say, more or less.
How much that put you back?
It's only $10.
$10,
real cheap. Yeah, especially for early access. They usually try and bone you for $30, so you can have the privilege of being a paid beta tester, where you're actually paying them, of course. But
I'm very familiar with being boned for $30. But did you actually buy Metroid Prime Trilogy? It's $10 right now.
No, I was thinking about doing it. Actually, I really wanted to buy Punch-Out, except I was out of town, so I couldn't get it. I own Metroid Prime Trilogy on disc, so
we talked about this
digitally.
Yeah, you're on the show. We talked about this. I totally forgot.
Mr. Fancy Pants with my Metroid Prime Trilogy.
I think that's very impressive. That'll go back up in price eventually. I guarantee it.
Oh no, it's a tentpole in my collection. So I impress women. Hey guys, want to see my complete inbox Metroid Prime Trilogy?
And they swoon
in droves. Yeah, they swoon.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous. Okay, great. That was basically. I'm just testing out this whole phone thing to see if it works. And
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'm glad I could help you out.
Thank you, Radio Shack, for making this possible. Well, great, Steve. Hopefully see you back on the show soon. Please survive the Super Bowl and the weather and all of that.
I will. I've got pizza rolls and malt liquor, man. I'm good.
Oh, thank God. Oh, that's good to know. Okay, Steve.
That's all you need. All right, I'll talk to you later, Colin.
Talk to you soon, Steve. Bye. Well, there we have it. I can't believe that works. Now, originally we were going to have Brandon on the show. I think we should give Brandon a call and see how he's doing here. Okay, let's see. Brandon, are you there?
I am.
Oh my God. How are you?
I'm good.
All right.
It's been a while.
It has been a long while. How are you surviving the blizzard out there?
Getting by. Desperately trying not to crash into people. Stuff like that.
Forget about people. All that matters is your vehicle.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
What have you been up to? You been playing anything recently?
I finally played Jazz Punk after hearing you talk about it so much. I was like, you know what? I'm going to check this game out. I got it on Steam sale on, I think, like $5 or $6. So, like, you know what? I'm going to play this. And it was awesome. It was confusing and ridiculous and extremely over the top and a just hilarious amount of weird mini games.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And I was really mad when I finished it because I was like, damn, I want more of this. I don't want it to be over yet.
I don't know how they even made that game. Like, I can't figure out the process of making a game like that because it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel complete, and yet everything is perfectly lined up in an imperfect way. Yeah,
and the characters were awesome, and like hitting people in the face with hot things is hilarious because then they have this like low voice, like I have 4th-degree burns on my face, and that's awesome.
I don't want to spoil it, but my favorite part of that game, I'll just spoil it, was just walking down a hallway and something exploded, and then the health icon from Perfect Dark showed up, and you heard Joanna Dark's voice. It never happens again. There's no health in the game.
Yeah.
So
I
ridiculous.
love that. There are all these like little touches and nods to like pop culture and the history of video games and shit in there. It's awesome.
Yeah, but it takes none of itself seriously. That's what makes it so good. There's no meta story. There's nothing. It's just garbage, and it's happy to be garbage.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And your boss gets eaten by an alligator, but then is okay immediately afterwards.
The best part about this game is you can't spoil it. You could say all these things, but it just sounds like you're having a stroke. Like, none of it will line up and make sense.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense. So no matter what you say, people are going to be like, whatever, I'll play it anyway.
Yeah, you can't ruin the ending. You can't ruin the beginning. There's nothing to ruin. It's complete nonsense.
No, because the ending is just like, oh, okay, another level. And then suddenly the credits start rolling. It's like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, I forgot about that. There's like multiple endings too. Yeah, so you were supposed to be on the show this week, and then the blizzard happened, and everyone's dead outside or something. I'm not sure what's actually going on.
I feel like blizzard is definitely, even with all of the like advance notice that we're going to get all this snow, and you live in Wisconsin, so you should probably know what the hell you're doing when it comes to snow. I got up this morning and I was like, holy shit. Because it was like, it's not like big flakes. It's these little tiny flakes, but there's so fucking much of it that there was like I have boots, nice high snow boots, and it was still getting into the top of the boots. I was like, what is going on?
Oh my God. Our West Coast listeners have no idea what we're talking about, and I envy them. No. I envy them. But then again, we don't have smog alerts, so
that's true.
I guess it balanced out. Okay, man. Well, I next week you're going to be on the show, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I wish I could tell you what the show would be about, but we don't know what's going to happen in the news.
Anything could happen. Literally anything could happen.
Video games are over.
I'm calling it now. Anything could happen.
Great. So great.
Next week, definitely super excited.
Oh, wonderful. So great to hear from you, man. I guess, enjoy the Super Bowl and stay warm.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too, man.
All right, bye.
Wow. I think I just hung up on him before he finished his goodbye right there. But there we have it. We can use phones. Phone technology will work for the pressure cast. Who would have thought? Okay, let's get on to the news. Nintendo has released sales figures for the financial year so far, so all the way back from March up until right now. Here's what we've learned. So far, they've sold 3 million Wii U consoles. That's actually up from last year, where they only sold 2.4 around this time. As for the Nintendo 3DS, they've actually had their sales dip a bit. They only shipped 7 million 3DSs, whereas previously last year they had shipped 11.6 million. Now you might be saying shipped and sold. What's the difference? Well, shipped usually indicates how many have been sold. We're going to get into that a bit when we talk about Xbox. So far, the Wii U has only sold 9.2 million since its launch. Compare that to PlayStation, which is already at 18.5 million. They've managed to double what the Wii U has sold, and they were only launched a year ago, whereas the Wii U was launched 2 years ago. So that's not very promising. As for the 3DS, when they were talking about the Japanese sales figures for the new 3DS, it turns out that the small regular version of the new 3DS only sold 600,000, whereas the XL sold 1.2 million. So there's the reason why the bigger version of the 3DS is coming to America and not the smaller version. The bigger version just has more demand. I think they've noticed those numbers and they're just going to go with it. They're saying, screw the small version. Yeah, they're going to release faceplates, I'm sure, for a few more months, or maybe they'll do it indefinitely, but I wouldn't hold your breath that smaller version is going to ever come to America, because the sales figures in Japan don't justify it, and they love handhelds, so that's not very good. So all in all, the Wii U is not doing tremendously well still. Mario Kart 8 came out this year, as did Smash Brothers, and those are some of Nintendo's biggest titles, the biggest system sellers, and they still can't reach 10 million. That's kind of problematic. However, the attach rate for Mario Kart is crazy, because they sold 4.8 million units of Mario Kart 8. So that means over 50% of Wii U owners actually have Mario Kart, whereas Super Smash Bros. Only sold 3.4 million. Nothing to scoff at. Over a third of Wii U owners are, have Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. That's rather incredible if you think about it. Now, the Wii U doesn't have many other franchises they can go to next. I mean, Zelda's going to come out. Will that sell systems? Maybe, but I imagine if you really like Zelda, you probably already own a Wii U. That new 3D Mario? Maybe, but if you really like Mario, I bet you already own a Wii U. So that's kind of the problem for them. They did also announce, though, that they have shipped 5.7 million amiibo figures, which is crazy. I mean, that only was launched earlier in the fall, so less than 5 months ago. Rather impressive right there. But they are trying to gain revenue in other ways. Now, we remember a couple of weeks ago, Xbox outlined how you'll be able to monetize your videos of Xbox gameplay. Nintendo has also outlined their creators program. Now, what this means is that if you make a video with certain games from Nintendo, you will actually not gain 100% of the money you're making from your video. So let's say you make a video using one of the creators program games. All right. So if you make an individual video, they will take 40% of the monetization that you would have made from that video. However, if you join the creators program and with your entire channel, they will only claim 30% of what you would have made off of that video. Now, not everyone is too happy about this. In fact, PewDiePie, who is, far and away the most popular Let's Player there's ever been. I mean, everyone knows who PewDiePie is. Love him or hate him, he's big time. And he actually has come out and said that he doesn't like this new program. Here's his exact quote. I also think this is a slap in the face to the YouTube channels that do focus on Nintendo games exclusively. The people who have helped and showed passion for Nintendo's community are the ones left in the dirt the most. And finally, when there was just so many games out there to play, Nintendo games just went to the bottom of that list. So pretty harsh words from a very influential Let's Player. All in all, though, Nintendo does need to gain revenue from some areas, and because of the growing popularity of Let's Plays videos, well, I can't blame them for wanting to claim some money on there. Now, I've done a number of Wii U games on my channel, and yeah, Nintendo claims on all of them. I don't monetize those videos yet. I will eventually, hopefully. But when I do, I will not get all the profits off of that. And personally, this is such a legal gray area. While I'm not entirely happy about it, I have to admit that I'm impressed that Nintendo was so willing to even allow this to happen in the first place. Now, one of the games that is not listed is Super Smash Brothers, which is surprising. They're not going to claim anything on Super Smash Brother videos for monetization. So if you make Super Smash Brother videos, you're in the clear. Confusing? Yes. But definitely a smart move from Nintendo, albeit a disappointing move if you're a content creator on YouTube. Anyway, okay. Speaking of Nintendo, Mario Maker, the game that allows you to make your own Mario stages, has been delayed. It was originally going to happen in the first half of 2015, and now it's just 2015, so expect that game to be delayed. Maybe they'll add in some more stuff. Maybe you'll be able to make Super Mario Land stages. Crossing my fingers for that. Speaking of Super Smash Brothers, though, they actually did add 15 variant stages, allowing for more 8-player matchups. Previously, certain stages would allow for 8-player, while other stages wouldn't. They've now updated that to have extra stages that will allow 8-player combat, as well as the removal of events. When you're playing some stages and random events will happen. A lot of people that are into the competitive scene of Smash Brothers prefer stages. Well, actually, there's no doubt about it. They want stages that don't have random events. And so now that's been enabled, which will be interesting whenever that happens at EVO. I believe Smash Brothers is at EVO. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Lastly, from Nintendo, I think this is one of the best stories ever. So, let's say you have a 3DS, right? Let's say you download a Game Boy Color game, right? With me so far? Well, someone has discovered that if you suspend the game, and then go into the internet browser on your 3DS with the game suspended, you'll be able to download a Game Boy Color ROM and play it because it'll use the Nintendo-produced emulator. Now, of course, Nintendo is going to remove this exploit whenever they update their OS, but currently, if you have any Game Boy Color games, suspend the game, go on an internet browser, download a game, and then you can play it on your 3DS. Oh my God. I'm sure some people will never want to update their system again. Good luck with that. Moving on to Microsoft. Microsoft has officially stated they shipped 6.6 million Xbox consoles during the last quarter. So the quarter that ended on December 31st. So once again, shipped, not sold through. And the only numbers we have right now is that they had shipped 10 million. We heard about that back in November. So because we don't really know what the entire quarter was or where they were at that point, we don't know how many they shipped since that half of November to the end of that quarter. Who knows how many they shipped? Maybe it was 13 million. Who knows? Maybe it was only 12 million. Who knows? We don't know how many they shipped during that time, but it's still problematic that Microsoft will not release actual sales numbers, just ship numbers, which probably has a lot to do with the fact that it looks better on paper to talk about ship numbers. That's exactly what Nintendo's doing. And PlayStation is just dominating. It has 18.5 million consoles sold through. That's an incredible number for only being around for, 14 months, 15 months at this point. I mean, it's insane. And so Microsoft would rather not have that comparison, and neither would Nintendo. That's why they're avoiding it. But definitely a lot of people picked up the Xbox One during that promotion with the reduced prices back in November and December, because it showed up on the MPDs actually beating out the PlayStation 4. They've dropped the price again since then. Who knows? I assume that Sony will not drop the price of the PlayStation 4. They really can't afford it right now, and frankly, they don't need to. They are outselling both of those consoles very well. At this point, It wouldn't surprise me if I found out that the Xbox One and Wii U combined didn't match the numbers of the PlayStation 4. That's speculation, though. Moving on, Bill Gates has actually commented on HoloLens and what it means to the future of Microsoft. Here's what he said in my bad impersonation. The HoloLens is pretty amazing. Microsoft has put a lot into the chips and the software. It's the start of virtual reality. Making the device so you don't get dizzy or nauseous is really hard. The speed of the alignment has to be super, super fast. It will take a few years of the software applications being built to realize the full promise of this. Okay, Bill, you're very cool. I have a lot of respect for Bill Gates. You know, he does a lot of great stuff for charity. I mean, I don't know if you saw that video where he was drinking sewage water that, of course, was gone through a process of a machine that made it clean drinking water. Very, very cool guy. Saying that the HoloLens is the start of virtual reality, not even close. Did this guy not hear about what Facebook bought the other time? You know, Oculus, you heard about that? No? No, Bill? HoloLens is the start of virtual reality? Come on. Augmented reality? Absolutely. Virtual reality? That's up for question, because a lot of the impressions that I heard from people that use the HoloLens said that it was nowhere near the level of interactivity as the Oculus was, or as Morpheus was, or even as Samsung VR was. So, interesting, Bill. Very interesting. Xbox Live, games with gold. Xbox One owners can expect iDarb, whereas Xbox 360 owners can expect Sniper Elite V2. Hooray. And Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Wasn't this game already free? Or was that PlayStation Plus? Either way, if you've never played Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, it's a pretty interesting game. Has a really cool story to it. Sniper Elite V2, those games just don't play very well on consoles. I'm just saying that, all right? Don't jump on me about this, all right? Anyway, Sony had a huge story earlier this week, which might not initially seem that big, but Sony has announced that they are shutting down PlayStation Music Unlimited, or I guess it was Sony Music Unlimited, and they are going to replace it with PlayStation Music, which is a partnership between PlayStation, you know, Sony, and Spotify. It will allow that people that have premium accounts or free accounts to use Spotify on their PlayStation. So it was only about a little over a year ago that PlayStation Music Unlimited, or whatever it was called, it was started up, and it had a subscription and all that. And I guess they're just shutting it down and replacing it with Spotify. With who can blame them? Spotify is awesome. It will also allow you to use custom background soundtracks, which takes me back to the days of the original Xbox, where I heard a Babbage's employee once say, "If you don't like the music on the Xbox, it's your fault." Sure it is, buddy. Sure it is. Square Enix has also announced Project Code Z, which is, get this, Spelunker Mina D Spelunker Z. You might be saying, what on earth is that? Well, have you heard of Spelunky? Great. That was a game that was influenced by a game called Spelunker, which was on the NES, and it was very popular in Japan. Well, actually, it was released in 1983, but it did come to the NES, and everybody hated it except for Japan and a few select Americans and other people around the world, which led to Spelunky. Obviously, Square Enix is seeing that there's a lot of promise there, so they are releasing a brand new Spelunker game. Project Code Z. Okay. If you're a PlayStation Vita owner, I have some bad news for you. Maps and YouTube are no longer going to be supported by Sony, as will Nier. I don't know if you guys have ever used Nier, but that's that program that you pop open once when you get a Vita and go, there's a guy like 2 miles from me that really likes Soul Sacrifice, and then never use it again. They are no longer going to be able, they're no longer supporting the YouTube app as of April 20th, and you can't download it anymore. So it's completely off the service. Oh well, I don't know about you, but I never, ever use my Vita for anything but playing games. It's excellent. I highly recommend the Vita, especially with all those free games you get on PlayStation Plus. Speaking of which, Sony has revealed that in February, they will have a bunch of great bunch of great games on PlayStation Plus, including Yakuza 4. Come on. How cool is that? For the PlayStation 3, the Thief reboot, which is a terrible game, also on PlayStation 3. But if you own a Vita, you'll get Kick and Fennec, never heard of that, and Rogue Legacy, one of my favorite Vita games. Seriously, dozens of hours of my life gone. Thanks a lot, Rogue Legacy. As well as Transistor, which is a fantastic game by the creators of Bastion, as well as a new game on the PlayStation 4, there's another game on the PlayStation 4. So there you go. Make sure to download that. It will be available starting February 3rd, so tomorrow. Great, Tuesday. On to some bad news over here. Sega is actually cutting back its workforce by 300 employees in an effort to focus more on mobile devices and PC development. Whew. That's not to say that Sega won't be focusing on console games anymore. In fact, they actually did release a statement about this. Local organizations managing packaged game software in Western markets will be streamlined. In the U.S., Sega of America, based in San Francisco, will be relocated to Southern California by this summer, and its existing office in San Francisco will be closed thereafter, which results in reducing fixed expenses, mainly in corporate functions. In addition, the Sonic and merchandising businesses will be reinforced to establish a structure which can generate stable profits. Oh man, I mean, so they're not just going to stop making games for consoles, but it's such a painful time to watch Sega. We did the whole Sega month thing in January and talked about the Game Gear and talked about all the great beat 'em ups that they made, and now it's like Sega's just a shell of its former self. It's focusing on PC, which is great, and mobile, which, hey, say what you will, there's some great stuff on mobile. I mean, Sonic Jump, or whatever that game was called, was kind of fun. But man, what happened to the days of them just being like, let's spend $80 million and make Shenmue? It's all over. God damn it. Anyway, you ever play that game Wonder Boy? I love Wonder Boy. The game was also called Monster World, which has one of my favorite intros of any game ever. Monster World was once a peaceful place until it was attacked by monsters. I love that intro. Well, there was actually a game on Kickstarter called Flying Hamster 2: Night of the Golden Seed. It was heavily influenced by Wonder Boy, but unfortunately it never met its goal. Well, that game has been transformed into an official Wonder Boy sequel called Monster Boy and the Wizard of Booze. Wizard of Booze. You serious? You serious that you're gonna call your game that? Well, according to the press release, it will be about a new hero with a story matching with the Monster Hunter World universe. Great. Can't wait. I just think that's so cool. These people were so devoted to recreating that game. They went to Kickstarter. They didn't meet their goals, and now they are actually working on the next entry in one of their favorite games of all time. How cool is that? Lego has announced 2 new games. They're actually going to have Lego Jurassic World, based off the upcoming film that will be released this summer, and Lego Marvel Avengers. Now, they already made a Marvel game last year, 2-ish years ago, more like 18 months. That was like, Lego Marvel Superheroes, which was excellent. And the games will come out on Xbox One, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Wii U, Vita, 3DS, and PC. I don't know about you guys. I am burnt out on all Lego games. Please stop making Lego games. I love Batman, and I was trying to play Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham, and I couldn't get into it because holy crap, it's the same game, just different colors. I can't put up with it anymore. So you can add all the dinosaurs and superheroes you want. It's still a Lego game, and you can't fix that. Every time I run up to something and have to rebuild a door, and then it pops, and then I get little gems and open up the door. Yeah, it's kind of fun, but man, 2 more Lego games in the same year? Slow down. Keep it special. Okay? Telltale? It's not Telltale. Traveler's Tales? I always get those 2 confused. Anyway, EA actually reported their financial year so far, and they are doing pretty darn well. They were originally expecting revenue of $1.275 billion, but they've actually closed out that quarter with $1.428 billion. Not bad, even though it is 10% down year over year. True story. But you know what? They Electronic Arts is just doing fantastic for themselves, and they have outlined what they're going to be releasing this year, including Battlefront and the brand new Need for Speed. Which, by the way, did you guys hear about that mobile Need for Speed where you have to pay for your own gas? Oh my God, how do they get away with this stuff? Unfortunately, PGA Tour is not going to be coming out in early 2015, but instead will be released in the second quarter of 2015, or the first quarter of 2016, financial 2016. So, somewhere around April. Look forward to that. Ubisoft earlier this week deactivated a number of Far Cry keys. Far Cry 4, of course, is a very popular game. People want to play it on PC. They buy their keys elsewhere and then use it on Ubisoft, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. A lot of the keys were actually bought from EA's Origin service. Now, on EA Origin, you can buy Ubisoft games such as Far Cry 4. Someone bought a bunch of those games and then sold the keys through a website that if you use, PCs a lot and you do download a lot of games, I'm sure you heard of this, G2A, which is kind of sketchy kind of place where you can buy keys. The problem is that the games were bought off of stolen credit cards. So whenever these new games come out, there's always some random website that's like, I'll sell you a key for $30 when the game is like $60 or $45. And everyone goes, man, what a steal. How do they do this? Oh, it must be the exchange rates because this doesn't take place in America. No, they're stealing credit card numbers, then charging those credit cards a bunch of keys from a third-party source and then selling those keys on their own website and getting a profit. It's not a good business model. So when they shut down those keys from stolen credit cards, people that purchased the game, what they believed legitimately were actually purchasing stolen goods in some ways because it was from a stolen credit card. So Ubisoft shut down the keys, and then people were complaining to EA, and now they've discovered it's G2A. So don't buy your games from anywhere else. I know everyone wants to be like, screw Origin and, screw Ubisoft and their Uplay and, everyone loves Steam, of course. But, investigate, who you're looking at before you buy these games. I don't know. Just disgusting. Very, very sad. Dragon's Dogma. I don't know if you guys played that game. Came out way back in 2012 on Xbox 360 as well as the PlayStation 3. Never came to PC despite all those rumors. Well, they've announced Dragon's Dogma Online, which is going to be coming out in Japan on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, and PC. It's going to be free to play. It's going to have 4-player co-op, which the original never had online at all. And of course, you can still have your pawns, which... long story, but you can send them out to do stuff for you. Moving on to China, the Ministry of Commerce recently sent out a request to a number of local governments asking them to submit draft rules for the sale of consoles in those territories. What does this mean? It means China is still lessening their restrictions on console sales. Now, the Xbox One and has already been released in China, and the PlayStation 4 will be coming to China soon. It looks like they're going to be expanding those markets into smaller areas of China. That's really good. This further cements the idea that China is going to become an influencing factor in the video games very soon. Now, they already are on PC, but console sales, of course, were banned in China for a number of years, even though there was always that gray market that you could buy your Vitas and your 3DSs and all sorts of things. But a good buddy of mine, Michael, he's in China right now, and he's definitely told me some interesting stories about how to pick up video game consoles even during that ban. So keep an eye out for that, because China's probably going to have more investments into video games. Speaking of which, Alibaba, that's the Chinese internet firm, they've actually invested $10 million into Ouya. Yeah, you heard that right. Ouya. So, I could actually imagine Ouya being kind of popular in China. They are, extremely affordable Android units that play pretty small games, but maybe that's exactly what the Chinese market wants. You got to throw everything at them. It's really not defined what China's role in video games is going to be, and perhaps, much like Japan, they'll be interested in more mobile titles. So who knows? The Australian airline Qantas will have VR coming to their planes. Yes, really, I'm not kidding. They're going to be working with Samsung and their Gear VR headsets to allow people on the plane to sit back, put on a headset, and, I don't know, goof off in virtual reality. According to Qantas, this technology gives us a completely new way to connect with our customers. I don't know. How do you connect with somebody that's like, busy staring off into virtual reality? I don't know how you interact with them at all. So yes, if you want to have VR on a plane, Qantas, and you also have to go to Australia. I guess. Whatever. I don't understand why that would be a good idea. But maybe they'll be watching movies on those VR headsets soon because Oculus has announced that they are interested in making their own movies. According to Oculus VR co-founder Nate Mitchell, when we started Oculus, we really thought that the major focus for VR was going to be games. Now that the Rift is sort of maturing as a technology and virtual reality as a whole, the potential is really there to take these people to these virtual worlds. So they've already announced that they're going to be making their own films. There's no words on what that's exactly going to be yet, but I don't know. I'm still incredibly skeptical about virtual reality and the idea of watching a movie in virtual reality. Of course, there's those demos where you can sit in a virtual theater and watch a film. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't like that. I don't want to wear a headset for 2 hours. You know what I mean? I guess maybe it'll make it easier to watch movies in bed. You just have to lay back, but I don't know. Having, something jump at your face the entire time. I mean, at least the movies I assume will be in 3D because of the way that virtual reality works. Cool, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you'll watch Twitch on virtual reality. Speaking of which, Twitch has announced that they have over 100 million unique viewers per month. An insane, staggering number, but also equally impressive, they have 1.5 million unique broadcasters per month, which basically means that 1.5% of every viewer is also a streamer, which is kind of low if you think about it, considering that all the new consoles, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, already have Twitch built into them. You could just stream naturally through Twitch. It even helps you create an account. Kind of strange that more people aren't streaming just yet, but I'm expecting that number will probably grow. If you were watching Twitch, you might have seen Kevin Burrell. Kevin Burrell. Okay. He was playing Tetris, the Grandmaster 3 Terror Instinct, and he became only the 6th person ever to become the TI Grandmaster. Now, in case you don't know, this was a Japanese-only arcade version of Tetris that is incredibly difficult. Think about the most difficult game of Tetris that you've ever played, and that's where it starts. Instead of actually, slowly watching the blocks fall, it just slams to the ground and only gets faster and faster and faster. And the only way you can become a Grandmaster is if you reach a number of Tetris while the screen's invisible. The credits are rolling, and you can't even see where you're dropping the blocks. You just have to memorize where everything is. That's insane. Well, Burrell was on Twitch when he achieved this, and he just started screaming and looking like a goof. Which, why not? He achieved something that he worked at. Let him be a complete fool on the internet. And I no disrespect to him. In fact, all respect for him, because he knew he was streaming online. He knew it was going to be a big deal, and he still almost cried after he beat a video game. Good for him. I'm impressed. According to him on Twitter, I can't believe I did it. Somehow it doesn't feel possible, but it's finally done. Good for him. Over on the mobile side, NPD actually announced that the average person that plays mobile games is spending 2 hours a day. How crazy is that? That's up 57% from where it was in 2012. Then again, mobile games have become a lot better. Go get yourself a copy of Monument Valley. Or maybe actually go to Good Old Games and get your copy of Dark Forces 2, Republic Commando, or Star Wars Starfighter. That's right, more Star Wars games, more classic Star Wars games have arrived on GOG.com. Which is crazy, because I think a lot of people had speculated when Disney purchased Lucasfilms as well as LucasArts that maybe some of these games would never see the light of day again. Apparently not. They're being released more frequently. Hell, we were just talking about Grim Fandango, and there's a Day of the Tentacle re-release coming up. It's kind of a renaissance for LucasArts. Now, with Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, Republic Commando, and Star Wars Starfighter. The best out of the bunch, in my opinion, is Republic Commando. That is a squad-based first-person shooter. Imagine, if you will, Rainbow Six, except you're playing as clone soldiers or whatever they are, and you got jetpacks, and with your melee weapon you have a knife come out of your wrist, and you're fighting bugs, and the blood shoots all over your screen, and then this electric thing on your vision, your visor, just removes the blood. I'm drooling over the blood right now. Highly recommend that game. As for the other two, I don't think they age particularly well, but if you have a fondness for them, I guess go for that. All of these games will, of course, have 0 DRM, as is the GOG standard. Here's an interesting story. The Taipei Game Show, which is happening right now, had basically a hot reel for upcoming PlayStation 4 games. Now, this had things like The Order 1886, as well as a number of other titles. But out of nowhere, there was this number 2 that was blue and looked a lot like Metal Gear Rising. So for a lot of people, they said, wow, they're making Metal Gear Rising 2. However, Hideo Kojima actually said that this is not happening. He told Jeff Keighley this. In fact, Jeff Keighley on Twitter said, silence that rumor. No Metal Gear Rising 2 at Taipei game shows. Spoke to Ken1555 and Kojima Pro Live. It is not true. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if they made another Metal Gear Rising game. I believe that the last one was moderately successful, and Platinum Games certainly is done with Bayonetta 2, and they put out that awful Nickelodeon game last year. So, yeah, they're probably working on something. Why not Metal Gear Rising 2? I'm crossing my fingers. Mortal Kombat X is going to be coming out in April, and it has yet another fighter joining the mix, Ermac, which is one of my favorite fighters from the last Mortal Kombat, will be in the game. Man, if you didn't play the last Mortal Kombat, you really owe it to yourself. That story mode is so cool. And I just love Ermac because he's just a collection of souls. And when he jumps on the screen, he says, "We are but many, you are but one." So cool. So cool. Like skateboarding or something. Speaking of which, Roll7 has announced that Ollie Ollie 2, Welcome to Ollywood, is going to be coming out soon. We don't know when, but it will be a timed exclusive for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. It will be launched at some point in 2015. Ollie Ollie, fantastic skateboarding game, had its own problems. However, Ollie Ollie 2 is expected to fix some of that by adding manuals, reverts, and revert manuals, as well as grind switching. If you didn't play Ollie Ollie, it was like a 2D game where you would jump and grind, and it was all timer based. Like you had to land everything just perfectly, and it would accumulate a score, which would unlock more stages. It was kind of like an Endless Runner meets Tony Hawk. I don't know. I don't have a really good comparison for it, but it is out on, I want to say, PlayStation 3, Vita, and PC. I mean, go check it out. The Ollie Ollie 2 trailer is awesome, and I'm not really into like dubstep and techno music, but it has a great song. Lastly, some really unfortunate news. AOL has decided to close Joystick, which of course has been a fantastic website for the past 10 years. Joystick, of course, was just a video game website and had just fantastic news, fantastic writing. It was acquired by AOL in 2005 and has officially said that they will be closed down later this week. So if you're listening to this on Monday, its last stories will be out on Tuesday. And that's a really sad story already. However, man, this just gets worse. I'm not going to pretend that I was ever a huge Joystick follower, but this is just depressing as it all get out. Their former editor-in-chief, Andrew Yoon, sadly died. He was on vacation in Texas. I believe it was Texas when he drowned. He was only 29 years old. He'd actually left Joystick some time ago last year, or actually only a few months ago, just to start a new game, Divorce, the card game. And yeah, so the website is shutting down, and they've also lost a really close friend. I mean, that's, thoughts go out to everyone involved in Joystick. I hope they get new jobs soon. Lots of talented people. Like I said, I wasn't a huge follower, but I did admire their work. I think they had some of the best writers when it came to news. I never really followed their reviews, but I assumed that they were equally good. But to lose one personally, you really can't make up for that. So, be happy for what you got, kids. Before we close out the show, just want to plug a bunch of stuff. We're going to be doing some videos on the brand new SpongeBob SquarePants game. I don't know how to segue out of that, but yeah, we're covering SpongeBob SquarePants on Tuesday for the first hour, as well as Criminal Girls Only. Both of these games will be on the Vita, so look forward to that. I'm not sure what's going to be on the download side, but I'm sure I'll be doing a video on that as well. Going to be writing a bunch of news stories, so go to videogamesaredumb.com. Next week, we're going to have Brandon on, and I'm not sure if he wants me to give out his last name. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out next week, what he's comfortable with. But thank you so much for listening. This was a bit of a haphazard show, but I really appreciate it. Anyway, remember, you can always follow the PRESSURECAST on Twitter by going to @PressureNews, or follow me @DrKarateChop. That's @DrKarateChop. You can also go to videogamesaredumb.com to check out all the videos and other episodes of the PRESSURECAST. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Subscribe to us on Stitcher. Subscribe to us everywhere that you possibly can, or subscribe to us directly through the RSS feed. Really appreciate everyone that's been listening lately. We've been doing great on the numbers, despite the fact that I've been having to do so many solo Brillos lately. But don't worry, we're going to have all our guests on the upcoming weeks. And, email me, pressurecast@gmail.com. Let me know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, or you can tweet at me. Now that I know that phones work, maybe we'll do a call-in show? Call in with Colin? Ooh, Colin show. Ooh. So many possibilities. But don't worry. Don't worry, the show will never change too much. It'll still be that old familiar friend that you know and love, because the PRESSURECAST is forever.